All right, today we're diving into a really powerful and honestly often misunderstood principle from Sun Tzu's Art of War. It's all about logistics, but it's really a lesson in survival and strategy. Let's get into it. So, let's start with the big question that every single leader has to grapple with. We all know war is expensive, but how expensive are we talking about? The cost isn't just in lives, it's in treasure. And the burden it puts on a nation, well, it can be absolutely catastrophic. Sun Tzu actually did the math on this, and the numbers are just grim. He figured out that one single major military campaign could wipe out a staggering 70% of an average family's entire wealth. And for the state, it could drain 60% of the entire treasury. I mean, these aren't just statistics, that's the recipe for national ruin. So what on earth causes this kind of economic meltdown? Well, Sun Tzu saw that it wasn't just one thing. He identified two vicious cycles that just feed on each other and lead to total ruin. First off, there's the cost of just getting your army to the fight. You've got these long supply lines, and they completely exhaust the very people who have to haul all the goods. You're making them poor just on the journey. But then you've got the cost of staying there. An army sets up camp, and suddenly local demand for everything goes through the roof. Prices skyrocket, and it just sucks the wealth right out of the local community. This, in turn, forces the state to levy these crushing emergency taxes. Sun Tzu called it being eager for queue service, where a queue, a small group of families, was taxed for a war horse. Imagine that happening over and over. It would break you. It's a perfect storm for poverty. And this is the result. You end up in this disastrous situation where your nation is just hollowed out from the inside, even while your army is off fighting someone else. So, this is the critical point, right? How do you possibly solve this logistical nightmare? Well, Sun Tzu's solution was pretty radical, but also brilliantly efficient. He basically said that a truly smart commander makes it their number one priority to get everything they need from the enemy's territory. And he's really specific about it. He uses the word wu, which doesn't just mean should, it means must strive to. This isn't optional. It's absolutely essential for success. And this is where the math gets just mind-blowing. Sun Tzu calculated that 1 unit of grain you take from the enemy is worth 20 units you haul from home. 20. Why? Because you completely eliminate all that crushing cost of transportation and logistics. And get this, he found the exact same incredible 1-to-20 advantage for animal fodder too. So this strategy gives you this amazing triple benefit. You save your economy back home, you slash those insane logistical costs, and you keep your army properly supplied right where they are. But, is this all just some ancient theory? Oh, not at all. Let's take a look at a historical group that were absolute masters of this principle. Yeah, the source material suggests that nomadic peoples, especially the Mongols, were natural experts at this, whether they'd ever read a single word of Sun Tzu or not. I mean, their entire way of fighting, these fast-moving, long-range cavalry strikes, it all depended on not being chained to slow supply wagons from home. It's pretty incredible. Their own military doctrine sounds like it was lifted right out of the art of war. And they had a system, a clear 3-step process. First, they'd seize livestock for later. Second, they'd use intimidation to force the locals to hand over food, like Genghis Khan's General Jebi did in Khwarazm. And third, they'd set up forward bases to live off the land they just conquered. They were literally sustaining war with war. Okay, so plundering and pillaging. How on earth does a 2,500-year-old idea like that apply to us today? Well, the answer is all in how you interpret it. See, the real wisdom here isn't about literal looting in the 21st century. It's about translating that core idea into a much broader strategic concept, leveraging external resources. The modern way to think about this is the phrase 借力使力, and it basically means borrowing someone else's strength to generate your own. And to see this idea in action, or actually to see the consequences of ignoring it, the source material points to a perfect modern example: Chinese Navy ships on anti-piracy missions, way out in the Gulf of Aden. So picture this. For months on end, these crews had a really hard time getting fresh food. Why? Because they didn't have any overseas bases to act as supply points. They were forced to rely completely on what they brought with them from home. This is the exact logistical problem Sun Tzu was warning about thousands of years ago, playing out right now on the high seas. So the ultimate lesson here is really a challenge to how we think about things today. In your own campaigns, whether it's in business, a personal project, whatever, we're so often taught to just focus on what we have. But Sun Tzu forces us to ask a totally different question. What enemy resources, what external forces, partnerships, or opportunities can you leverage? The best strategies aren't just about the strength you have, but how cleverly you can use the strength that's already out there.